Hello and welcome back to Upside Down. Today I'm going to be checking a scene that I've created a while ago. I want to give you a little bit more insight of some of the techniques and I want to give you a little bit more insight of some of the techniques that I've been using to create this short video. And of course, if you're interested in anything else from the scene, leave a comment and I'll be more than happy to make a video about it. So before jumping into some settings and some setups that I did, I first wanted to play you the short sequence that I've created. So I opened Sequencer right inside Unreal and I will just play this short sequence here. This is just a small piece that is part of a bigger cinematic. So let's play it. Okay, now that I've showed you how the whole sequence looks like, I will bring the sequencer on this viewport. I will turn off the camera so that we see what's happening inside the viewport itself. And first I wanted to run you through a little bit the setup that I have here. So you can see that the sequencer, I have my camera cuts on the top, I have my audio track. This way it makes it much easier for me to edit everything, so I have all the musics and all the tones and everything when it's happening, and it's much easier to edit. Of course, at the end I usually remove the audio from here because I want to add the audio when all the post-processing and combining of videos is going to happen. Usually I'm using Premiere for this. And then underneath we can see that I have a lot of skeletal actors. Some of them don't really have an animation track. They are just they're static, so they don't really have any animation movement. They are just staying in a static frame. But then we have another ones which are... So first thing I want to talk about is a little bit the additional lights that I've added to the whole scene. I wanted to also go a little bit around the scene and show you everything is set it up so that the shots look good. First I'll unhide by pressing G all the additional elements which I have in the scene. So you can see for the very first frame I have this nice rim light to the characters. So there is a light coming from the window with some light shafts, but it was not enough, so I added this extra light. You can see that it adds a little bit of detail here and there on the character and makes him a little bit pop out from the background. I added some other lights which are more for faking and making more variations into the interior itself. So some is for characters, just to make sure that some extra elements are better visible. Some are for the interior itself. I will now put the camera just on the side and we'll play exactly the same sequence. I want you to see what's happening behind the scenes of the whole setup. I will do one more time, just I will hide all the extra elements so that you can see the characters better. Okay, so you can see that there is a lot of things which are happening in the scene. You can see that there are some places where some characters are overlapping, and it's something that it doesn't really matter when you're making a cinematic, because what matters is what's in the frame. I usually like to build the scenes around my cameras, so normally I don't have anything outside the frame. But in this case, I proceeded in a different way. So first, actually, I had the whole environment because it's apart from a game, and after that just needed to make a very short video which was for promotional purposes. So I didn't bother hiding or removing any of the unnecessary elements. And since the time frame for making it was quite short, there are some things which could have been done better or could have been more optimized and improved. Let me go very quickly through some of the frames just so you can see again the setup. So the first one, we see only our character which is pointing a gun towards the camera. I'll slide to frame number to the second shot So here we can see already our zombie character that is falling down on the ground. He is just playing a standard death animation that was in the game. I just slowed down the frame rate so that it was fitting. Then as we move from him, we can see a shot of all his friends coming inside in the building. You can see that some of them have some small animations. And then we come to a frame of our character, which is hitting one of the bad guys. And at the end, as he dealt with all the enemies that he had inside the building, you can see that he's already pulling up his gun one more time, and there are more coming from the outside. And this was a place where already it was transitioning to another scene. Here there is one thing which is missing from the final one, and this is the VFXs. So you can see that when he's hitting, for example, this guy, there is actually no VFX happening. Last thing I want to talk about through my whole process of creating such scenes is my thoughts behind it and how a scene like this is being started. So of course, at the very beginning, we sat down with the team and we were discussing what we can do and what is the general idea of it. Then I came up with this small story that our main character is searching for items and objects inside this diner, and while he's doing this, of course, he bumps some stuff and he makes noise. The bad guys hear these noises and start coming in. He's already deep inside the diner, cannot go anywhere out except from the main entrance, because as we can see, the door is the door which goes for on the back side is over here. So his only way out is actually the main door. And the other part which I wanted to also add as a feeling was that at the end I wanted to add the enemies to be very close and the main character still reloading his gun. This was meant to add a little bit of a question to the viewer if he's actually going to make it, so that he reloads his weapon and saves himself potentially, or maybe not. The thing that I was having in mind while creating the whole sequence is that I didn't want to make the viewer get lost into it. So one thing that I had in mind is that I really wanted to keep the movement from this point all the way going out. And this is something that I was doing so that I can follow up with the story of our main character that he is trying to get out. So I wanted to add the viewer as well into the same scenario, that we are also progressing as he is progressing. Another thing that I want to focus on and talk a little bit is about the cameras and the camera placement. I was very cautious when I'm placing all the cameras and angles, because I really didn't want to lose the viewer and get dizzy around the whole scene and not be understanding what's happening. And the other thing is that you can see that there is quite a lot more space in the diner than what we see in the cinematic. I wanted it to make it feel a little bit more tight, a little bit more claustrophobic, so that there is like a feeling that our guy doesn't really have a place to go except this door. And the way that I did this is with a very close camera movements, as you can see. Another trick that I used in order to guide the player and not lose him into the frame is that I was trying to also tell the story from the actions which are happening. So you can see that at the very beginning our guy is shooting. Then we have the frame where he shot his first enemy. Then we move to the second frame, but we still see on this side the guy that was just falling down. He's slowly revealing and opening the frame for the others, but it's something that the viewer can relate to. Then we move to the next frame. We can still see the same guy falling down. Also, we can see some of the other ones, but we reveal a little bit more from the scene. This is again something that I wanted to guide the viewer and show them that, okay, we are moving forward, but there is more to come. Next frame, still we have the same guy falling down. We reveal more from the scene, and again we moved forward, so we show that there is a progress and that our main character is actually moving forward. Here we are getting already very close, and we cut to the point. Another thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the cameras that I'm using for the setup. The cameras for the whole setup are Cine cameras from Unreal. The Cine camera actors inside Unreal are very easy to use if you're already familiar a little bit with photography, because the settings and the setup that they have, it's based on real photography. Leave a comment if you want me to make a more in-depth setup for cameras and the differences between cinematic cameras and standard camera actors inside Unreal. Also some methods of tracking and focus and setups that I'm using. Thank you for joining me today. Leave a like and subscribe, and see you next time.